Everyone, it's 6:30, so we'll try to get started on time. I just put the agenda in the chat and we'll, excuse me, we'll be putting the sign-in sheet in the chat as well. We'll get started in just a second. And we'll be posting the agenda and sign-in sheet throughout the meeting as well. Do we have someone from the BPD to provide an update today?
Hi, yes, Sergeant Santolo, I'm here.
Hi, Sergeant Santolo. Thank you for joining. Do you want to get started?
I sure do.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everybody. A couple of meetings tonight, so you don't get the usual guys, you get me. So very importantly, we see an uptick in motor vehicle accidents, especially up the Orient Heights. Not sure what that's attributed to, but the captain has assigned the traffic officers to, Bennington Street for the speeding and numerous other locations. So we are on it. Okay. Start with this Sunday up at Suffolk Downs. We had a call for trespassing, but what happened to be two homeless people who were setting up shelter there. And from what I'm being told, they've been there for a couple of years. And I only bring this up is because my office does offer services. We work with City Hall and we work with other numerous outlets to offer. We did offer them some services, so we're in the process of that. And I bring it up because if you do see anybody homeless, please contact my office. We'll go out, we'll talk to them, and we'll try to get them hooked up to services. Okay, Saturday, 2:40 p.m., we had an accident with no injuries. Saturday at 2:04 p.m., Gladstone Street, we had threats. If you heard a commotion up there, there's some screaming and yelling. It was a threat call over an Uber fee. Okay, Friday, if you're seeing any vehicles up the Beachview Road, there's a student that was ill. We're going to label that as sick assist. And I bring it up because it was at the school. I didn't want anybody to get nervous that there was any altercation at the school. It was just a sick student. Okay. Wednesday, 10/19 at 9:45 p.m. And back to the first issue we had here. We had an officer monitoring speeding at 1230 Bennington Street. He observed a motor vehicle doing 68 in a 30-mile-per-hour zone, which is a big issue. So the officer pulled him over, operator had no license, and he will be summoned into East Boston Court. Tuesday, the 18th at 5:55 p.m., another traffic enforcement officer at St. Edwards in Saratoga observed a motor vehicle failure to stop at a red light. This driver also did not have a license and also will be summoned into East Boston Court. Tuesday, 9:40 a.m., the Courtyard Marriott. We had another catalytic converter stolen. This car was parked overnight in the lot and come out and the converter was gone. You guys got ring cameras and some surveillance on your homes. If you hear any of your neighbors had these stolen, we really would like to catch these guys. It's a lot of money, these converters. 10/16, 972 Saratoga. We have a licensed premise called La Fonda. They were issued a licensed premise violation for having a bottle of alcohol left out on the table for self-service. We bring this up because if you in any of these establishments and you see a bottle of, whatever it may be, vodka, tequila, those are not to be on the table or even left on the bar countertop. Those are to be poured and put behind the bar. On Wednesday, 10/12, A7 Drug Control Unit assisted Winthrop PD. They were doing surveillance in Winthrop. We had a suspect with a large amount of Class B. He was stopped in East Boston at 1152 Bennington Street, and he was placed under arrest for possession of B and no license. Okay, 527 Bennington Street. On the 8th, we had a hit and run. Gentleman parked his vehicle from noon till 3. Come out, his car was hit. Again, if your neighbor's going through these issues and you do have a camera in your house or your bell, can use some assistance. On the 7th, Friday, about 9 o'clock, we had a call for a person shot. And I didn't write them. I apologize. I didn't write down the location. But the units arrived on scene, and what happened was the gunshot wound was self-inflicted. Victim stated he shot himself in the leg, and it's an ongoing investigation. That's what I have. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Sergeant Santolo? And I don't see any in the chat. Thank you, Sergeant Santolo. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. As always, you guys got my email, my phone number. Question pops in your head, give me a shout anytime.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Next on the agenda, do we have anyone from the Boston Waterfront Initiative here to speak? Anyone from the Boston Waterfront Initiative?
Sorry, I just logged in. So sorry. I had issues with the password.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Gabriella. Welcome. And do you have a presentation for us this evening?
Yeah, I just have more of an announcement. I
Sure.
don't have any slides.
No problem.
So perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriella. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Trustees Boston Waterfront Initiative. First of all, I want to say hi. Thank you for having me tonight. And on behalf of the trustees, we wanted to say thank you to everyone who shared their feedback on phase 3 of Pierce Park. We've enjoyed seeing many of you at our community events, but also hearing your thoughts and feedback on the park. And we're working to implement it into the design. And we're actually happy to share that next month we're hosting community events to talk about the park and show an updated design. So there's going to be 2 Zoom meetings, one in English, one in Spanish, taking place on November 2nd. The English one will be at 6, and then the Spanish one will be at 7:15. We're also going to be hosting 2 in-person open houses. One will take place on Thursday, November 10th from 6 to 7:30 at the East Boston Public Library. And then the second one's going to be Saturday, November 12th from 11 to 12:30, also at the library. And we hope you're able to join us at one of the open houses and let us know your thoughts on the latest design. If you can't make the Saturday one, but you can make the Thursday one, that's fine. But if you can't make the Thursday one, you want to go to the Saturday one, it's fine. It's the same open house. It's just different dates to accommodate people's schedule. And then I can put in the chat the registration link and then my email if you have any questions. But that's all I had to share.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions right now? No? Okay, yeah, if you could put your email in the chat, that would be great in case anyone has any questions. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have an update from Suffolk Downs on community updates and happenings in the area. So do we have someone here to speak to that? I think was it Jess who's going to be here to speak to Suffolk Downs?
There's actually, there's a couple of us. My name is Tom O'Brien, and I'm with the Suffolk Downs development team at the HYM Investment Group. I'm also joined, I think, by Andrew Townsend, and then I think Jess Feroli as well. We had some slides, if that's okay with you guys, to just quickly present a few things. Is that all right? Yes,
thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Well, thanks so much for giving us time tonight. Really appreciate you giving us the chance to present an update, and really nice to be back in front of everybody. Wish it were in person, but we're happy to do it by Zoom, that's for sure. We wanted to kind of update you a little bit on what we're doing, what's happening with the site. Also, too, I wanted to address some issues with regard to security that have come up over the course of the last couple of months. And so let me just kind of dive in just to point out, so everybody knows this is where the Suffolk Downs site is located. And these are the boundaries of the site itself. Remember, about a third of the site is located in the city of Revere, and about 2/3 is located in East Boston as well. Next slide, please. This is our slide that kind of outlines the phases that we're involved in right now. So 1R just simply stands for One Revere, 1B stands for One Boston. So we are actively involved in the 1R phase of our work right now. So 1R is up in the upper right-hand corner at Beachmont Station. We call this area just Beachmont Square. It's an extension of Beachmont Square that exists there today. And I'm going to run through a little bit of some of the buildings that we have going on as we move forward here. We have started with that first phase, which involves the creation of some new roadways and infrastructure on our site, includes parks and the like. We also must install utilities and a whole new set of roadway networks that you can see kind of being put together on site as we move forward. There's a sewer pump installation that's been installed as well to connect the future building existing sites to the Revere sewer system. And our first building, which is called the Amaya, is underway. So it's the first residential building. You can see the concrete cores going up. If you look at it, we also have installed a very large crane on site as we start to erect the steel for this building. The foundation work has largely, been, a large percent completed. And you can see on this slide, we've installed the telecom duct bank. We've done all the electric work, all the basics that go into building a community in terms of the below grade work. We've already installed that. And then the building R9, we call it R9, but that building is Amaya. The stair and elevator cores are now pretty much installed. So we're moving at a pretty good pace. This building will deliver in 2024. Go ahead, next slide, please. In addition to that, we also have become aware that there have been some issues over the last couple of months. And I'm here to kind of say we feel badly about that and apologize for any disruption that may have caused people in their lives. And we've tried to take appropriate action in conjunction with Police Captain Bickerton and the folks in the East Boston BPD office as well. So this is a slide to kind of describe for you quickly. We've added a 24/7 security officer in the parking lot. You probably see him in the car. So 24/7 we'll have somebody on site in a car roaming around. We've added video monitoring along sections along Tomasello Way, which is the main entrance to the site that comes off of Route 1A. We've repaired speed bumps that had kind of over the years had fallen into disrepair. So we repaired those speed bumps to kind of make it so that folks can't drive at a high speed along Tomasello Way. We've added some no trespassing signs as well throughout the site. And we're coordinating additional security improvements with Captain Bickerton, who's the commander, as I said earlier, of Area A7. There are a number of other things that we're, sort of pending right now, particularly in consultation with Captain Bickerton. We may put up some additional gates and fencing restriction to restrict after-hours access to Tomasello Way. And we're also working to make some additional lighting repairs and make replacements in some of the lighting as well to be sure that gets done as well. So hopefully those will address some of the issues around security that have propped up. But there are a few things that we wanted to make sure that people should know about. Certainly, first of all, if there's ever an emergency that you're aware of on site, people should call 911. If it's not an emergency that requires immediate action of the police department or of an emergency responder, then New England Security, which is our security firm that's on site, there is an on-site officer who is equipped with a link to this phone number. And we'll send this around and you guys can post this to your neighborhood site or Facebook page or however you'd like to do this, but you can dial that number. Also, New England Security has a 24/7 dispatch number as well. So you could call that number. We also have included our number in our email, but of course, we're an office group, so we may not be here during off hours as well. So if people have something that happens after a typical workday, you're going to want to call the other numbers that are above us, our security firm that's on site. In addition, we've added some additional numbers here for people to have. So for BPD, for a non-emergency, this is the number for their office in East Boston. And of course, for Revere Police Department, which sometimes might, be needed as well, that non-emergency number is here. And then there is Boston Animal Control. We're certainly aware that there are coyote that are on site. We would ask again, there are people who are feeding some of the coyote, which is encouraging them, there, and we just don't want that to happen. But certainly to the extent that there is a need for Boston Animal Control or Mass Wildlife to attend, these are the numbers for those folks who we are in touch with as well. And I think that we had a few of the slides that we want to go through. I'm happy to take any questions, by the way, at the end of this presentation on those issues. But we also have a number of events and happenings that have been happening at the site. We want people, we've opened the site, we want people to use the site. So while we're delivering on these buildings, we want the site to be open to the public and people to use it. As you may know, we've opened the track. So the track is open daily from dawn to dusk until snowfall. And we'll reopen it, probably April 1st, 2023, after the first snowfall, estimated, obviously depending on weather. We have a dog park on the track, which has now been open since August and really been very popular with a lot of people. And we've had a number of different events. So we had a daffodil dash around Easter of this year in April. We had a fitness series that are happening, frequently during the course of any given week in June to September. We had a food truck festival in June as well. Trill Fest with, the brewery in August. Revere Block Party. We had a Touch a Truck event, which was really popular among families with young kids. And so we're constantly trying to plan different events and have people come to the site. Some coming events. Some of these are events we're getting into on an annual basis. We'll have on Saturday, December 3rd, 10 a.m. To 1 p.m. free photos with Santa, hot cocoa. I love that picture to the right with that kid screaming, which is a typical reaction of Santa, of a kid to Santa. But free photos with Santa, hot cocoa, holiday crafts, a toy drive for East Boston and Revere families in need as well. We also have an ice sculpture stroll as well, Saturday, December 31st. Ice sculptures at the track. And then we're also planning we'll do the Daffodil Dash again, fitness series, the Revere Beach Sand Sculpture Festival, will be a satellite location for them this year. Touch a Truck, we'll do other holiday happenings. And then I did want to talk about the soundtrack at Suffolk Downs. So we're working, and I think there's been discussion at this group earlier on this, but we want to bring music back to Suffolk Downs. Suffolk Downs has a long history of music and live music here, beginning, I think, with the Beatles back in the late 1960s. And there's been a number of other groups that have played here. So we want to bring music back. And we've been working in the central green in the middle of the track to create a space that can work for an outdoor music venue, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please. So we're really excited to come back and talk to you more about all these different pieces, but we did want to give you a quick update and particularly address some of the security issues that may have come up in people's, in your neighborhood over the last number of months as well. I'm happy if there's time to answer any questions if people have any questions for us.
Thank you, Tom. We do have a question in the chat about the biolab. Do you have any information on the biolab?
Sure. We obviously we're working toward creating making this site a center for bioscience and potential of lab science, which is a huge and booming industry in many other communities across Eastern Massachusetts. It's centered in Cambridge and has moved to Somerville, moved to Watertown, Lexington, Massachusetts. It's really been a huge job driver and a really important element of the opportunity to create jobs here at Suffolk Downs. So we're working on trying to get a tenant in place. We do not yet have one, but as soon as we have one, we'll be happy to come back and present again to this group and tell you a little bit more about what we're doing.
Great, thank you. And it says there's a question, what level is that going to be? I don't know if that's in reference to the level of the lab.
Level of bio. So level 1 or level 2 would be what we'll likely do here. The city of Boston has a very strict, very specific process for how these labs are reviewed and permitted. And so for the most part, these labs are level 1 or level 2, which is very similar to a hospital.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. For those asking for the attendance sheet, we'll be reposting it in the chat. Yes, there is one. I see a hand up by Brooke. Brooke, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was distracted for a couple minutes of the presentation, but I wanted to ask about the live performances. I remember at a previous presentation, they were supposed to be happening this fall, and we haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, we just weren't successful in getting the venue completed and getting everything in place this fall. So we tried really hard, Brooke, to put a show together, and the time ran out on us and the weather started to shift a little bit. So we decided we'd work more carefully to just have it all happen next year. So we expect, probably 10 to 15 shows or so. And we'll have more to announce on that as soon as we get the shows signed up.
Thank you for the update.
No problem. Thanks, Brooke. Thanks for the question.
We have a question from Frank.
Tom, I understand that Union Oil Company has sold a parcel of land with the oil tanks on it. Is that going to impact your project at all?
Hi, Frank. It's actually Global Oil.
Yeah,
Global Oil
okay.
sold, yeah, they sold their entire site to a group that will likely demolish all those oil tanks. So there's two companies that own those oil tanks. So there's one is Global, and they're the tanks. All those tanks are in Revere. They're not in East Boston. They're all in the Revere side of the border. And about 2/3 or so of those tanks, the ones that are closer, deeper into Revere, those are the Global Oil tanks, and those will all be demolished probably by this time next year. So about a year from now, about 2/3 of those tanks will have been demolished. And they expect to build in there something that is more associated with kind of industrial and trucking uses. Anything's better than the oil tanks from our perspective. So, you know, we expect, I think we're meeting with them this week or next for them to come in and kind of give us more information. The other tanks at this time will stay. Those are Irving Oil tanks owned by a different company.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to answer, Frank. No problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands. Okay, I think you might have screen shared it, but Tom, if you have an email or someplace where people can get in touch that you could just throw in the chat, that would be really helpful if anyone does have questions.
We had an email on our slides, and we'll more than happy to send you these slides, and make sure that you can provide those to people who weren't able to attend. And I do want to say thank you very much to Representative Turco. We've worked closely with him all the way through this, and he's asked us a lot of questions, worked hard to defend the neighborhood and work hard, on your behalf. But working with him, we've tried to make the project a better project. So thank you, Representative Turco, for your work.
Great, thank you. All right. I am just going to repost the agenda in the chat for folks who might have joined late. So we just wrapped up for folks who are just joining the Suffolk Downs community updates. We are going to move on to the Sons of Divine Providence Maverick Media proposal for a billboard at 423 McClellan Highway. We are going to be taking a vote on this this time around. So I'll turn it over to those folks to do the presentation, and then we will vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. Attorney Jeff Turco on behalf of the Sons of Divine Providence. We were asked, I'm not sure if you circulated the information that we provided in response to the last meeting. We were asked for some follow-up information. We did provide that. I'm just trying to pull that up right now. We were asked specifically about what the height of the sign will be in the location. We submitted in advance of the meeting some plans showing where the proposed billboard would be, which would be about 150 feet from the existing Waldemar Street, Waldemar Ave billboard. There was a question about what the height is. What's proposed is a maximum height of 50 feet from the ground. The engineers also looked at the height from the same ground to the top of the hill is 92 feet. We know there was some concern about lighting and whether lighting from the sign would affect the neighborhood. But in fact, the maximum height of the sign, the top of the sign, I want to be clear, would be 50 feet from the street level. And again, the engineering is that the height of the hill is 92 feet. In addition, I think we showed the last time that the type of lights that are proposed on the sign will direct the lighting down to the ground, not up. So anybody on top of the hill will physically not be able to see the sign. So yes, we did. Somebody posted in the chat, do we have a rendering of where the sign would be? We did submit that. I'm not, Val Bossom's on here. She might be sophisticated enough to know how to
Jeff,
show
I'm not.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, we had a nice rendering of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a rendering that was submitted in advance of this meeting. I'm not sure if you could share that with the screen. I confess my ignorance on how to do that. But that
I can try to find it.
Thank you. It's so on what we submitted to you, it was the first slide shows where the sign would be. And then if you go to the 4 of 12, it shows sort of an aerial shot of the highway with the hill on the right.
It's the first one.
Right, but I'm saying number 4 of 12 also shows more detail of where the sign would be, the height, where it is in proportion to everything else. Thank you for doing that. So if you look, you can see the top red flag is where the existing billboard is near Waldemar Ave. That would be removed. And then the sign would be approximately 150 feet away from that. Does show that again, the sign would be 14 feet by 48, and it would be a height, again, the height from the ground would be 50 feet, and that's to the top of the billboard. Then you see further down, it does say the height of the hill is the 92 feet from Route 1A, and obviously the other red flag represents the other existing billboard, which would be removed. Okay, the other thing that was raised at the last meeting, which we hope to address with the information that we submitted, people were concerned about the brush and the overgrowth by the cross at the top of the hill. We did go back as a contractual matter and made it crystal clear that the company that the Sons of Divine Providence are partnering with on this project would have responsibility not only to maintain the area, but also we put in that the slides that we provided, sort of a rendering of an actual park that would be up there for the use of the public. But that area has been, in response to some of the concerns that some of the neighbors raised about what it looked like, that area has been, all the brush has been, removed. And again, that's on slide, that's on one of the slides that was submitted, in the 12 package showing what it looks like now. And then on slide number 10, it shows what's proposed in terms of a park with benches and stuff around the cross. So if you go to number 10, yes, so that's what the proposed park would look like, and the partner to the Sons of Divine Providence would require contractually to maintain that, to build it and maintain it. Okay. Gail Miller is saying she doesn't see any renderings. That was the very first slide that you showed, shows sort of where it would be, and then on slide 4, which shows it from an aerial spot.
Here you go, Gail. It's in the chat as well. We have a link that was in our email, and this is what was provided.
Thank you. So that shows what the sign would look like and where it would be. Again, approximately 150 feet from the existing billboard on Waldemar Ave. And then slide number 4 in the presentation, Mrs. Miller would show, or Ms. Miller would show from the aerial shot sort of what the existing lay of the land is, where the 2 red flags represent the existing 2 billboards and where it's proposed. And again, making crystal clear that the height from the ground level, the top of the sign, not the bottom, the top of the sign would be 50 feet off the ground level.
Thank you. And we have a question. Do we have the height of the existing sign? Is that, I'm sorry, is that in here? Yes, it is. It is. But they look smaller. John, a question from John in the chat. I don't know if you want to say that, John.
Sure, I can ask a question if you can hear me. The rendering makes the new sign look smaller than the existing sign, but I'm pretty sure the existing sign is not 50 feet high. So I'm curious what the height is of the existing sign and how much taller that 50 feet will be over the existing sign.
Jeff, I can answer that.
Yeah, please, Val.
So the existing signs that are there are smaller signs. It says right on that little map, they're 22 by 22. Standard digital billboard is 14 by 48. So it will actually be a little bit, longer. It's a rectangle shape, but shorter in size because the other ones are 22 by 22. This is 14 by 48. And the both of the signs, I think one of the sign, the Waldemar Ave sign, is 30 feet high, and the other sign is 40 feet high.
So we should expect the one at Waldemar to be 20 feet higher than the existing sign, which doesn't really look like the renderings that we're seeing.
Yeah, it would be 20 feet higher, 150 feet away from Waldemar, correct?
Okay.
Right. In essence, I'm not sure if you want me to repeat sort of what we talked about before, but in essence, what we're asking for is the Sons of Divine Providence have been on the Hill for decades. Obviously, You know, what I said last meeting, and I think is worth repeating, is that there is a tremendous amount of talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that anybody that's familiar with the activities up at the shrine on the hill know that I would challenge anyone to find any other organization in East Boston that represents the fulfillment of diversity, equity, and inclusion with the Spanish community, with the Brazilian community, the remaining Italian community, and just people in the neighborhood that are involved at that shrine. And as with all nonprofits over the last few years with COVID, they've all taken a hit financially, and this is an opportunity to better use the land, or a small portion of the land, I think, to clean up the hill, to give the neighborhood a nice park, but also to remove 2 sort of dilapidated billboards and replace it with something that is nicer. Somebody did ask me, and this never came up before, but somebody did ask me recently offline about, you know, is there restrictions on the use of the sign? There is language in the agreement that says that that the messages that are put there have to be consistent with the teachings of the church, consistent with any restrictions that might, you know, government restrictions that might follow. So I did want to point that out to people that were concerned about that. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. I sort of ask you for your consideration and support for this. It's critically important to the Sons of Divine Providence to be able to continue their mission up on the hill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Feel free to unmute if you have a question. Let's see, Gail, I have a few. Okay, Gail.
Okay, first off, you know, this lease agreement, that's kind of hard to read before a vote, number one. Number two, I'd like to reiterate that these signs are not an allowable use on 1A, and they're also not an allowable use in the conservation subdistrict. I'm sorry? I didn't know if somebody was responding. So, and then the third is, if it's an economic hardship, I think the community deserves the right to know what mechanisms or means you used or employed to determine that this was the only alternative that you could use for income generating options. So I think you kind of have to provide the community with that information, and it doesn't automatically, because you just say it's a hardship. I think there is some requirement for you to actually prove that hardship. So, but suffice it to say, it's just an overall forbidden use on 1A and the current zoning.
If I may.
Sure.
You know, I'm respectfully, you know, we disagree. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going through this process. That it's not allowed. There's, you know, I'm not going to get into a sort of a legal debate over it. But you know, there is the law of non-conforming use. Certainly, you know, we take the position comes into play here, but there's also an overlay district that this property is in that we believe is the superseding zoning authority. And ultimately, this is the first sort of step in the process, or the second step in the process, to get us to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And when we go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, they obviously will have attorneys on behalf of the zoning board and on behalf of the city that will look into this. And if they believe that we don't have the proper zoning, they will then take, end the process by telling us that we can't move forward. But I don't think, respectfully, I don't think having a debate about the zoning before this body, I don't think is sort of necessarily a fruitful adventure. The second part of it, though, is I don't know if you're looking for their Form 990s, I think it's a little brazen to say I want to know their financial circumstances before I support something like this. I think at the end, anybody that's looked at the economy the last couple of years the city has spent a tremendous amount of money, particularly opera money, to help nonprofits that have been suffering you know, anybody that knows the shrine and knows that, you know, the masses were shut down for a period of years, and that's where people would donate money to help keep the shrine going. I think that the idea, you know, I think it's obvious that that like the shrine, like all nonprofits, has suffered tremendously over the last couple of years, and you know, the fathers are looking for ways to continue their existence on the hill, as they've already done, but with the reuse of some of their property. And so, and this is just one more attempt to, as you can imagine, the building of the shrine and in the type of construction that was done, it's extremely costly to maintain a building that was sort of built into the side of a mountain or a hill. You know, if we were doing the construction today, we probably wouldn't have, the shrine probably wouldn't have been built the way it was, but it was built on an Italian model from Italy, and it's very expensive to run and to maintain. But I do appreciate your questions. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to respond. I'd like to respond, if I could.
Go ahead, Gail, and then we'll take the question from John after.
Yeah, with regard to sort of the brazen approach, I'm not doing a brazen approach. I'm just speaking to kind of the theory behind claiming that you have to kind of prove that it is a financial hardship, that nothing else can be done at this site, and that burden is on you to, I think, provide to the city. And I take exception to the fact that it is not, you're claiming that it is not, that you're claiming that it is sort of an allowable use, but for the fact that you go to the zoning board. That's why you go to the zoning board, because it's not allowed, and you're seeking a variance. So the conservation subdistrict does not embrace billboards, nor are billboards embraced on 1A, despite the fact that there are some already there, grandfathered or whatever, and then one slipped through just not many feet away, right across the street. So we hardly need another billboard in light of the fact that there are already many there. But according to the city, there are only several areas that do allow billboards, and that fact is fact. So you'll just, I guess we'll have to meet at the zoning board and then plead the case there again. But to say that it's allowed is not true. And so that's why you're seeking a variance. So I would just rather have the facts stated, and these are facts as I know them. So, you know, if we're in dispute, we're in dispute.
Well, we certainly are. Otherwise, we wouldn't be moving forward with the process. I respect you have an opinion on it. I think that the zoning billboards certainly are required to go before the zoning board of appeals. Whether or not the point you're raising is whether or not a billboard is allowed in a conservation district. That's a separate question. Whether or not putting a billboard in requires the approval of the zoning board. And so what I'm saying to you is, I think factually, or as we understand the law, and again, you know, that's why we have arbitrators to decide, and we have judges to decide, and that's why we have a zoning board to decide. If they think we're wrong, then they agree with your understanding, then obviously they'll rule against us. But I think there's two separate questions for the zoning board. One is, you know, is a billboard allowed in the current zoning district? And then do they want to approve us moving forward to the Commonwealth to then seek their approval? So there's two separate issues, and you know, and we, you know, obviously, you know, I respect your opinion, but we respectfully disagree, and we'll wait. You know, hopefully, we'll have an opportunity to present ourselves to the zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, you had a question?
Sure. Just two quick questions. One, and I apologize if you've already said this, I had to drop off for a minute or two. The billboard across the street, I'm not sure of the exact height of that, but is there any chance of bringing the billboard a little bit lower so it's not necessarily half the hill? I'm just thinking of all of the photos I've taken of the cross and how many times I've not had a billboard in the middle of it from the bottom of the hill, and just wondering if there is that possibility of, you know, maybe dropping it to 40 feet if it is approved. And number two is the mention of the park. I did have a chance to talk to the guys who were cleaning up the lot there, and it does look much better. So thank you for cleaning that up. But in regards to putting in a park there, as someone who listens to all of the fireworks all summer long, the cars out there with their music, the smashing of the bottles, I just wanted to see if we could get a commitment to come back to the neighborhood association for feedback on what they would like to see there. I'm not necessarily sure that I'd like to see a bunch of benches out there for people to hang out all night long as someone who lives just a few doors down. But thank you.
No, absolutely. We appreciate you with respect to the park. We absolutely will make the commitment to come back. This was an attempt to address the concerns raised at the last meeting about the condition, and saying one way to sort of fix that is to dress it up and make it into a nice park. But your point is very well taken, particularly in light of the sergeant's report at the beginning of the meeting about some area safety concerns. With respect to the 50 feet or 40 feet, I think Val could probably answer that. I think 50 feet was put in as a maximum number.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mateo, I'm on a Zoom.
I can answer that. I can
Thanks.
answer that, Jeff. So we did have our engineers go out. They looked at it, and from the billboard company's perspective, the lower the better. It's a better view shed for the billboard company. So yeah, we would consider that if it's something that we're able to do engineering wise. We would definitely drop it to 40 feet. If that's something that that the neighborhood is wants, but we said 50. We originally were at 60, dropped it down to 50. But if that's something that the neighborhood can get behind the project, we'd be more than willing to do that. Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm looking forward to a billboard there at all, but I think the least obtrusive billboard possible is, if it's going to happen, is what I would prefer to see, and something that's not going to be, half the size of the hill halfway up.
Absolutely, John. We would consider that. As I said, from the billboard company's perspective, you want it low. So, our engineers did say they could lower it to 50, but if it's, we're going to get it as low as we can. So yes, that would be fine. 40 would be fine. We would agree to that.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a question, Francis.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everybody. Frank O'Brien here. I'm just here briefly in support of Gail in her interpretation of whether the billboard is allowed or not. It's really not an opinion. I mean, the zoning board itself, for the city's inspectional services, gave the applicant a refusal letter, and on that letter, it basically very clearly said billboard is a forbidden use. I also want to say, the Shrine is a place that my family's gone to for years, and we totally respect it, but the billboard is a forbidden use in the location requested. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your comment. Patricia has a question. Patricia, if you want to go off mute.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you, Patricia.
Okay, thank you. My name is Pat Powers, and I live right next door to the cross. And I was wondering if the area that Valerie was speaking on, that they cleared next to the cross, is where they're going to plant a park.
I didn't really quite get what she said, but did she say, is the area that was been cleared, is that where we want to propose a park? Yes, yes. Because the community, that was the, the last meeting we had, that was the concern. So that was the feedback that we got. We did, we hired some landscapers to go up. We cleared as much as we could, giving weather and all that, but we cleared and it, pretty, I know a lot of the neighbors were coming around saying, thank you, we got our view back. But that was just the first phase. And, as Jeff had said, we're gonna, if we're successful with this, we'll be coming back to the neighborhood to let you folks decide what you want there. We're going by what you want. You're the folks that live there, and whatever you fancy is what we're gonna do for you.
Well, living here for the years that I have been, it's been a constant hangout for young people to do whatever they want to do over there, along with other people, but mostly at night, a lot of noise, letting off fireworks, drinking, and I think a park is just inviting them to come more. So I don't think I agree with the park idea.
Patricia, we're having a very difficult time hearing you. There's some background, but thank you very much.
I can't seem to get that ringing off my computer.
Yes, if you could just mute yourself, that would be great. Thank you. I did hear your comment.
If I could quickly, I mean, if,
Yes.
you know, we committed that we would come back before any park was built, we would come back. I saw Gail posted, people didn't want a park, they wanted it maintained. Either way, we're happy. It's cheaper for us just to simply maintain it and not build a park. If that's what the neighbors want, then, you know, that's what we'll do, you know. So that we're not wedded to the park. We're here seeking, obviously, approval of the billboard, not a park. So, but
Yes.
whatever, if the neighbors said they don't want a park, you won't get a park. You'll just get
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That,
Do you mind if I just speak real quick? I live in Montmorency Ave. I just want to make a couple comments. So one, I appreciate you guys cutting down the brush, right? It definitely looks better. There's no doubt about that. I will say I'm definitely concerned about people drinking and doing drugs in the park. I just want to make sure that you maintain the area, right? So I have noticed some alcohol containers. So who's going to clean that up, right? Like who's going to maintain that area once you're done and you get the approval? So that's my main concern, is to make sure that it is sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, contractually we included, it wasn't the fully executed, but we included a copy of the lease amendment that makes crystal clear, you know, that our partner on the project would be required to maintain this. You know, we'd have a landscape company that would be hired to go and maintain it and make sure that it was cleaned. You know, and Val could speak, you know, more to that, but I don't think she's got a signed contract yet with a neighborhood contractor, but we would have a landscaper that would go there and maintain it and make sure that it's.
Yeah, I guess my concern is I want to see like actual schedules, right? You're going to be here every month, every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks. I walked my dog down there today, actually. I saw like beer bottles, a wine bottle. I want to make sure that it actually stays maintained.
Yeah,
Sean, it's gonna be, you know, as we go through the process, I mean, we haven't really begun it yet. I mean, this is our first stop here is with you guys, but
Sure.
you know, it's gonna be maintained probably on a bi-monthly basis. Like we would, like Jeff said, we would be hiring a landscape company to come in and depending on what's gonna end up there, you know, to maintain it, to make sure that there's like you said, no trash, nothing there. It's going to be maintained at a, you know, we see it like it's going to be like a park-like area with all the brush down and green grass, whether it's a park or it's not a park, but that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be maintained on a regular basis, ongoing for as long as the billboard is there.
and Sean, I wanted to be clear, if you look at paragraph 18 of the lease amendment, says the grass and lawn area will be maintained on an ongoing bi-weekly basis for the term of the lease, 30 years.
No, I mean, I definitely appreciate that, but all, you know, what is the grass main area, right? Like I want to see the actual area scoped out, right? Specifics. You can make that a very small, minute area. Like I want to make sure it's the actual land on top of the hill. To Patricia's point, like I'm definitely worried about people going there and drinking, right? Like I have seen it multiple times. I mean, Val, you were there with me surveying the area. You saw the people there bringing beer and having alcohol, right? Like it's a valid concern for the Heights.
Right. Well, it's going to be, you know, yeah.
But but that concern is there whether we put a billboard up or not. You know, I mean, you know, I think you guys there's been a lot of very valid points raised about if we make a park, it'll probably increase it. And so therefore sounds like the park will probably go away. So now the question is, how do we maintain the area in this proposed agreement? If it goes forward, guarantees you in writing that it's a contractual matter that our partner will have to, on a bi-weekly basis, clean the area. The area in question is what's shown in the slide number 10, which was shown earlier, was the park area, which I think is a pretty decent sized area. So it's not like we're going to go and say, oh, it's only 2 feet circumference around the sun, around the cross.
I hear you. I hear you. I guess my main concern is the fact that, you know, in general, I want to make sure you maintain the area. It's not used as a dumping ground, people to be able to do drugs, drink alcohol, like you actually maintain it, right? I want to see a benefit to Orient Heights.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, and can I just interject, maybe something, Sean, where we, you get together and you guys decide you want it to be fenced. I mean, maybe a fence is one solution there. You maintain the property and fence it so it's I'd like to see it so folks could use it. But maybe you put a fence up until a certain time, it's open and then it's closed. I mean, there's, you guys got to come up with some ideas, I guess, of how you want to do it. And it's going to be, the area is going to be that entire area that you see when you walk from the street all the way almost to the end where it goes down. So it's that whole area there that's the flat of the land there.
Sure. So I guess to Patricia's point, I think she mentioned, how are we going to stop people from partying there, right? Like the alcohol containers, people that put wine bottles or beer bottles on the edge. Who's going to be responsible for cleaning it up? Are you going to be able to like go down there and clean it up, or like I know it shouldn't be your problem, but I'm worried it will be your problem, right? I'm worried that people will go down there, they will drink alcohol, they will make a mess. Like, who's going to be responsible for cleaning the area up?
Well, what I've heard tonight is that that's happening now. And so we're coming to you with the proposal with a contractual obligation, between the Sons of Divine Providence and their partner in this project, if it moves forward, where on a bi-weekly basis, the land will be cleaned. And so there'll be a professional paid company there doing their work to clean it, where right now it's sort of, we were in a situation where it led to one of these meetings for it to be brought to our attention and brought into focus, and then it got cleaned. So if the billboard let's say the billboard doesn't go up, let's say Gail's right, Mr. O'Brien's right, we go before the zoning board and they say, no, you can't, you can't do this. The problem you're talking about is unrelated to the billboard because it's still going to continue. So the question is, how do we solve that? Do we put up a 6-foot fence? I don't know if anyone wants that. Do we talk to the Boston Police and say, what can we do to help? Anytime you have sort of an open piece of land, it's going to bring people there. And so the question is, how do we, we can certainly answer the question about cleaning the area. And I think that this proposal, creates the resources that allow, the Sons to make sure financially they can have a company out there keeping it clean, much cleaner than it's been. And then we just got to work together as a neighborhood, and with the Boston PD to figure out how do we address it. And maybe the neighbors say they want a 6-foot fence around the bend there. I'm not sure, that's going to be in line. We'll take feedback from everyone. Maybe we can have another community meeting just about that issue. What do you want to do, in that area?
Yeah, it does sound like it's two separate things, since today the request for the vote is on just the billboard, and it sounds like you will have to return to us to talk about the potential for the park area and other things on the hill. Yeah, okay. So I think at this point, I don't see any more questions. We can probably vote on this. So the voting form will be posted in the chat. We'll get that up and running. Jessica, please let me know if you have any problems with posting that, but we'll get that up in the chat. And thank you for the clarification that bi-weekly is twice a month.
You're welcome.
Okay, so hopefully the voting form works for everyone. I just clicked on it. You'll notice in the voting form, there's actually a section for the second vote that we'll be having this evening. So before you click submit, we do have another proposal this evening. And so I don't know if Evelyn is with us. Evelyn joined the design review committee last week to speak about the dormers that she's proposing on 1145 Saratoga Street. Evelyn, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here again to represent my mother, Dinora Flores. I'm here with my husband, Dwayne, as well. What we're proposing is to finish the attic and to add more living space to the second floor. This will include building 3 dormers. One of them will be for the bathroom. The other one will be for the wet bar. And then the third dormer will be to expand the stair space for safety. That's what we're proposing. I know there was a couple of questions as of what it will look like. I did share some photos with you guys in the plot on all the additional drawings of the construction. I'm not sure if everybody was able to see them. Should I share it again?
Yeah, if you can screen share, I don't see any questions, but it might just be good to do a quick screen share.
Yeah, hold on. Let's see. Okay, are you able to see my screen? I'm just gonna lower this, sorry. Let's see.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, let me try it again here. Sorry,
And also, we posted the rendering in the chat as well for people that want to look at the link in the chat.
So are you able to see it now?
It's loading.
Okay.
There we go, yeah.
Okay, so in here, this is property right now, the front of the property. Then here we have just that existing second floor plan. If I can move it up a little bit more. And I'm just gonna keep scrolling down. This is the existing floor plan of the attic as is now. Oops, sorry. And this is just existing. So this is the hold up, let me just take a look here. This is the proposed for the attic floor plan. And this on the sides right here, this is where like the dormers will be. These dormers will not be exceeding the already structured of the housing, it will not be changing any footprint. That's one dormer. This is the other dormer for the bathroom. And this dormer right here, it will be where we'll extend the stairs. Once again, that will be for safety. Then I'm gonna scroll down. So in here, it's supposed to show what it's gonna look like. Just the dormers, though, they will not exceed the ridge of the roof of the existing line ridge. It will be lower than 10 feet. So that's kind of like the front view.
Great, thank you. I don't see any questions. I know you just presented to our design review committee last week, so I wasn't expecting there to be any, but any questions for Evelyn? All right, well, the voting sheet is the same. We'll repost it again just in case folks missed it in the chat, but we will take a vote on that. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so those were the 2 voting items this evening. Before we get into housekeeping items, I know, Gail, you had mentioned you wanted to do a brief announcement to inform people about something related to zoning. So if you want to speak to that, you can.
Yeah, I might have to cut away here a minute, so I'm just on the edge of a call. I was wondering if Sean or John or somebody would just speak to the proposal that the BPDA threw out there last week. So it's regarding a change in zoning. So for our neighborhoods. So if so,
Thanks.
one of them
Anyone
could.
else able to speak to this? If not, what we can do is Gail or anyone else who could speak to it can send us an email and we'll send it out with the meeting minutes.
Well, it begs a little discussion because it's very important, but Sean or John, are you there? Can you take it? Because I'm just fearful I'm gonna get a call and have to cut away. I don't know if they can hear me. I don't know.
We can hear you. It just doesn't look like anyone is available to speak to this
All
right now.
I'm just gonna speak briefly. If I have to cut away, I have to cut away. Then
Okay.
BPDA came to a Zoom meeting last week and were proposing that they wanted to change, well, in particular, this hill area or this Orient Heights area, change the zoning on the 1 and 2 families to be able to allow, without applying for variances, a proposal to put in 4 to 6 units on these 1 and 2 family house sites, which would go totally against the grain of why the zoning exists to begin with. So there's going to be more meetings, but the BPDA needs to hear our opposition, if that's how we feel, because it will totally change the nature and the characteristics of our neighborhood. And that's why we all chose to live here. So if one can take the chance to go down to Jeffrey's Point and see what's happened down there for the overbuilding and the total decimation of side yards, backyards, front yards, that's a look into the future. So I want to stand strongly against their proposal and hope others will sign on to that, and hopefully we'll come up with a more hopeful proposal and somewhat in opposition to what they're proposing. So that's all I have now. I hope everyone stays tuned in and on that mailing list with the BPDA. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gail. And yeah, we can always continue the conversation at another meeting as well. Okay, and so now I'm just going to turn it over to Jessica for some housekeeping related to the council and the board. Go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you. So folks, once again, we are asking for anyone who is able and willing to join the board to please reach out. Reason it's becoming more important, Maria and her family have a great opportunity to move out of the East Boston area, which means that I will be the only person on the board. And at that point, I will not be able to sustain meetings alone. So we have a couple weeks here to find a couple more replacements. I know that folks in the past had recommended we reach out to neighboring councils, which we have. So far, the sentiment is they would prefer to keep things separate. So given that, if there's no change on those conversations, once Maria leaves, we will be pausing these meetings until we can fill the board. So please, please, please reach out, talk to us if you have questions about what the work requires. If you feel like you're nervous about technology, I can handle that, but we do need more folks to continue having these meetings in place moving forward. So I encourage you all to consider that or nominate any names for folks who have time.
Thank you, Jessica. I would continue doing it. Unfortunately, my husband got a job that is requiring us to relocate, so I can't continue to run the meetings if I am not a resident of East Boston. So Joanne, are you interested in volunteering? I know we spoke. You have your hand up. No. Well, if anyone is, please do reach out to our email.
I just had a question.
Sure.
Could it be shared? I mean, because I can't do this like full time every single month, but is there an opportunity for, 2 people to share it, 1 month someone and 1 month another person? Because I think that would just take, I mean, I'm sitting in my office right now because otherwise I wouldn't be able to take this call.
Right.
But if I think it was a shared kind of rotating thing that we all communicated together, I think that would take a lot of the stress off of just one person. I'm just throwing it out there because someone might be able to do a shared kind of responsibility.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think for like that model to work, we would need more than 2 people. To give you an example of what kind of work it requires. So Maria typically does the outreach on email. You might receive requests from community members to meet up and have conversations about initiatives. You need to be on top of making sure that the agenda is put together, that we have appropriate resources, that the YouTube is uploaded, notes, sign-in sheets, all of that behind the scenes. So I still think given one person on a rotating basis, that is still a lot of work for one individual to do, but could be doable with like 3 or maybe 4 folks, 2 and 2, taking time, and with conversations around wanting to move these meetings to in person. I really cannot commit to having just one person per month covering that type of community conversation. So I think there is room there to continue discussing splitting up work, but I think that would need more individuals as part of the conversation.
I agree. You know, it's running the Zoom. We'd like to also, I've heard people want to resume in-person meetings, but that will obviously take more of a lift to reach out, find a space, all of the things that come with that. You know, we started looking into that, but we need to hand that off. We're also talking to other councils for advice for people who have run into this situation in the past. My understanding is Gove Street had a similar issue and took a hiatus until they found folks to keep it back up and running, which is, you know, kind of our only option should we get there. And Jessica and I are happy to speak with anyone who may be interested in helping out or taking over the reins. You know, we don't want to see a hiatus happen, but we do need participation.
I'm happy to throw my hat in the ring here. I'm happy to help. So I'll send you my email address.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
That would be great. All right, I think those were the only, that was a major real housekeeping item. Sean, thank you. I have your email. We will reach out. And I just reposted the link to vote and the sign-in sheet. So we'll leave that open. And we'll just leave the Zoom running for a few minutes for folks that need a chance to access those links. All right. Thank you, everyone. Was there another question? I'm sorry.
Yes, so this is Andrew Townsend from HYM. If the council is considering in-person meetings, I think we could probably offer up a room in the clubhouse of Suffolk Downs to hold those meetings.
That's very generous. Thank you.
If that does come to pass, you know, please reach out.
We absolutely will. That is very helpful. Thank you.
That's fabulous. Thank you.
Can I just make one quick comment on a similar note of what Gail mentioned?
Sure.
I can't stress this enough. We have a very drastic, you know, situation that's going to change the zoning ordinance in Orient Heights. In the next meeting, it is crucial for you to reach out to your neighbors and, you know, friends in the community and just understand the impact that this zoning regulation is going to change. Plan East Boston is drastically going to change this neighborhood. And I advise everybody to reach out to your neighbors, your friends, anybody that lives in Orient Heights and East Boston in general, and just understand what the impact is going to be to all of us.
Thanks, Sean. If you have any information that folks could share, we can put it in our email meeting minutes as well. All right, great. There's also a note that the shrine could be available for our meetings in person as well. Thank you so much. We'll keep that in mind and reach out once we have a plan on how this will continue. Right. And again, we'll just leave the chat open for a few minutes. And thank you, everyone. Feel free to submit questions via email, and we will see everyone next time.
Thanks. See you.
Maria, are you still on, and Jessica?
Yes.
Yeah. There's been that longstanding, somewhat longstanding now agreement that the St. Lazarus Hall is supposed to be, is obligated to lend it out to our community and especially our organization. So did we ever have a follow-up with that, or does someone not able, or is someone not able to make a connection? Because that's obviously connected to the shrine, but that hall was supposed to be available to us. So
Thank you for raising that, Gail. So I know that Maria reached out a little while ago. I didn't see a response from them, but we can certainly follow up, and I'm happy to just give them a call tomorrow and see if we can knock that out on the phone.
yeah, they got community monies to renovate their hall, and we were supposed to use that for space. I don't know if the Y is in there now with their school kids. If they are, then that means we should be able to use it at this point.
Perfect. I am copying that. So I will follow up with them tomorrow, and then hopefully be able to report back to you all either via the notes or sometime before our next meeting.
Thanks much.
Of course. All right. If there are no more questions, Patricia, I just confirmed that I got your information on chat. I will let folks go. And you'll see notes in the recording from us shortly. And if you haven't voted already, please do that and sign in if you haven't done that as well. All right. Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Good night. Thank you too.
Bye.